Tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of where you started and where you are today. And I know personally what you've gone through, what's the success and the challenges. But if you could just share with the audience a little bit about what you've overcome.
Thank you, Tony. It's wild because every time I feel like I'm around you, there's like this spark in my brain and this jolt in my body to like, continue to excel because here I am, uh, you know, the honors of being around, a person with the, financial wealth, intelligence that you have to the, networks, champions, like real factual champions that you've contributed and been part of their networks and their growth, on a global level, to just being who you are as a human and as a person, and to all the people that you're around and what you deliver, and then just being there for others. I can think
Yeah,
of
oh,
so many
thank you,
moments that
man.
you've been there for me.
Thank
So,
you.
that's kind of the story. Like just trying to do it all. I think but do it all in a way that keeps you passionate. So, hopefully my story kind of inspires somebody out there, because the journey has been incredible. I mean, just like yourself, Tony, like to be able to enter different arenas with different skill sets that you practice and prepared for with the people that you worked so passionately and effortlessly, but with a lot of effort. Uh, I don't know how you felt when you are seeing your team win the championship belt, and I've seen the UFC, belt in your in your gym before. So, just to witness that is something that maybe the next person who doesn't care about this arena might not look at that and go, "Wow, a Grammy." But if you are in the industry, or if you understand even the micro steps of that major macro accomplishment, you probably just take a moment to enjoy the art. And so, hopefully the stories of how we align is through those values. And there is no start or stop. I know people talk about work life and your, were you a were you a rapper? Were you a club promoter? Were you a family
Yeah.
person? What are you? Are you an entrepreneur? Do you do recruiting? Are you diversity inclusion? And I tell people, I'm all of that and more. Like, I'm a comedian some days, or a karaoke person in the shower. It all depends on how you project yourself, how
Right.
you come in with that fight game that day, that month, that time, that moment of your 20s, of your 30s, of your 40s. And even then, like sometimes I'm in my 40s, but I feel like, dang, I'm so 12-year-old to that. And then there's sometimes where I feel like I'm a white belt and I come in and I go, oh my God, I feel like I've been doing this naturally forever. Does that make sense, T? Like, and I know
Yeah.
that's not even me telling my story yet, but that
Right.
kind of should set the tone of, if people are listening to us right now, I hope they realize beyond surface level, beyond, in the words of Bruce Lee, you don't learn anything from dry land swimming. You must immerse yourself in the knowledge. And, we're going to dive deep into this. Let's go. Let's, no way is no way, no limit as limitation. So, that's the Jeet Kune Do motto that I've, kind of follow by, just
Yeah, I like
flow.
how you embraced martial arts as a foundation to help you in your journey, because there's a lot of similarities, right? And
Yeah.
you talk about immersing yourself. There's no better way to immerse yourself in a combat sport or whatnot, because it provides instant feedback. If you don't put up your hands, you're gonna get hit. And guess what? If you got hit, that means you didn't put your hands up. It's instant
That's right.
feedback, right? And sometimes in life, the decisions we make, we don't see that instant feedback, because you
Yeah.
make a decision and then that decision might play out years from now, and like, oh yeah, that's why this has happened today, because of this decision I made like 2 3 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And you're relentless with those goals, and it shows in your results. So it's almost like if there's an illogical way, but there's the logic of it is like, gosh, if I practice and practice, it kind of progresses me. And, there's that truth, right? And that's what I probably love about that Muay Thai or the mixed martial arts of what you all do is there's that truth in there. Is that you didn't put your hands up, that's the truth, or you got caught with an armbar, that's the
Right.
truth. And how do you deal with that truth? Speaking of truth, like that's always been something that I struggle with personally, professionally, is like identifying your truth. How do you authentically project your truth? How do you find others that believe in these models? Going back to Bruce Lee, I think that's what he was yearning for. Students, but also he was a student, and think about it. By him looking for fellow students to what he would call co-study with and co-learn, which even meant breaking the racial divide, right? And going against, I don't know, outdated rules and tradition to create and evolve what we all enjoy today.
So yeah,
in martial arts. So I think that's really the philosophy of why I align so close to you all.
Right, and to that point, you grew up in the projects, right? And now here you are talking to CEOs of big companies. So could you expand on that and kind of share that part of the story?
Yeah, growing up, so coming, parents were refugees from Laos, but my parents also, were from war-torn countries during the Vietnam War. My grandfather was a 5-star police chief in Pak Se, Laos, and was actually captured during the war and thrown in a death concentration camp. And he escaped once, got captured again, and then escaped the second time to come to America. But he didn't come before his kids. His kids actually had to flee, and half of the kids actually swam across the Mekong to get to the Thai refugee camp. So, just to set the tone of the history and the bloodline, it's deep. It's born out of war. And my parents came to America, in like the 80s, had my sister, we were living in Rainier Avenue. I think by then they probably had either apartments that they all shared with, or either lived, got housing, right? So people were, no English, no job, from a different country. And then you think about the PTSD of war. I always ask and challenge most people, no matter what age you are, you could be an infant, 20s, 30s. Like, if you were to have to pick up everything today, how would your life have changed if you have to go and, force that change? What happens after that? So, I definitely pay homage to that. So I look at, the projects, as growing up, it was like, man, I'm so ashamed to be poor, and growing up here in the projects, and, the limited of role models and all that. So yeah, I grew up in the, Seattle housing projects, and so most of my other family members. So I was very familiar with food stamps, food banks, government support. People didn't graduate, high school, so, there was a lot of odds against all odds, right? And the statistics were not looking good for people like me to even be able to tell the story that I've been able to tell. And definitely far from I've made it, but gosh, to have made it this long, this far, and out of the circumstances that, some of us has been. Hey, Dr. Dre went from Compton to Beats by Dre, right? That's one of those awesome stories. I hope to, share and get more people to tell their own stories.
In your upcoming book,
and
right?
Overcome challenges. Yeah, what was that? What was that, T?
You're gonna share that in your upcoming book?
Yeah, absolutely. I got to. I mean, I'm at a place in life where I feel like, okay, it's not really about a story of like, I've made it, here's how I made it, but more of like, how the heck did I make it through all that? and then maybe challenging the audience and the community to think that through, because maybe some exposure will give people more empathy and education that they never got before.
So what would you say gave you that drive to get out? Or was it just, something you experienced early on? You're like, you know what, I got to figure this out.
Yeah, it was like just seeing the negative role models, right? Gangs, dealers, divide, certain behaviors that you don't normally agree with amongst your peers, your family members, and again, you're around people that are war survivors or that were in war. When we welcome veterans home and we understand the repercussions of what war does to a soldier, even, we welcome them with open arms. I hope that we do that with refugees and people that have gone through a lot. And so I don't know, like there was just things even in high school that I was like, I don't want to be a lot attendant my whole life, and that's okay if you are. I didn't want to be a dishwasher. I didn't want to even be a drug dealer or a gang member. It just wasn't in me. So I think hip hop really saved my life. Like, finding a community center and finding your community, finding your people that actually share the love for hip hop and was willing to look over the fact that, oh, you're Hmong, I'm Min, I'm Laos, I'm Cambodian, I'm Vietnam. Oh, you're from the West Side. Oh, you're from we can't go to each other's, hood on any other regular day, but with the breakdancing we can, right? And that was, to me, promoting nonviolence, unity, and art sports. I couldn't afford football and all that at the time, but you could afford cardboard and breakdancing anywhere, anytime, any day, And hip hop was just kind of like our thing, like, and so yeah, I really, really credit hip hop a lot as an outlet and a way for me to grow out of my circle, which then I think when I was 17, 18, I got lucky. I wouldn't say lucky. I was trying to get out of a job, happened to read a newspaper, and it was a job out of Bellevue for a telemarketing in the mortgage industry. And that kind of really like set the tone and changed my life ever since high school, was finding this job ad, going to Bellevue, wet my hat backwards. I wore my hat backwards with a backpack. Talk about having no skill on interview. Going to Bellevue, I ain't never been to Bellevue, and I was just like fascinated. Like, I was like, what kind of cars are in the driveway? What is Bellevue, Belvoir? What is this? Oh, they got a front desk greeting me. And then this person, rest in peace, named Scott Kirkeberg, was the person that gave me this title of Employee 27. That was my employee number. So in the telemarketing room, and they've gone into hundreds, if not thousands, and people that have flowed in and out of my time as when I first entered. But he initially looked at me, and just like anyone else, training class is full. I was like, what? I just spoke to you on the phone. You said to come in to tell you, man, I'm from the South Side. I can't, I got all the way over here. I'm here, and I was like, and he's like, it was kind of interesting, because me saying, wait, hold on, like, what? Like, and not just taking, oh, okay, bye. He's like, you know what, just come to my office. So, he's like this hustler guy, at the time, just really charismatic white guy from Minnesota, but he grew up under poverty. So there was just something rebellious about him. And, in sales, you got to get used to people telling you you're bad and wrong. So he already understood what it meant to be bad and wrong. Hello, how you doing? I'm here to help you refinance your house, but you're bad and wrong already. But like, what? I'm not selling you windows, like everyone else out there that you're getting calls from. And this was the height of telemarketing, I would say early 90s, late 90s, mid 90s, but I came in like the late 90s. But he said, oh, well, you know what you just did right there in the hallway? I was like, what? He goes, it was called a rebuttal. I gave you an objection. I told you I'm not interested, and you rebutted me. Right. He goes, can you read a script? I was like, yeah, I can read. He goes, all right, read this script. So he's like, a script, and it's like, okay, if I told you not interested, I want you to read this. And I was like, oh, okay, well, hold on a second. If I could save you $300 to $600 a month, you would want to know, wouldn't you? And that's changed our lives. That changed the lives of so many people today, to this very day, and I hope
You had a lot of success
somehow
with
interview them. Yeah, some of them are pilots. Some of them went to go work on Google, and it all started with this formula of, you gave us an objection, not interested, but we have an opportunity to rebuttal, counterpunch. and then you see, how Mayweather became champion. But yeah, I mean, that's really, Tony, like that was like the start of my business career that then led on to so many other greater things.
So now you run SM Diversity, right?
Yeah.
So was that what motivated you to do that after the mortgage?
Well, it went from mortgage, and I'll fast forward it. Mortgage, entrepreneurship in the mortgage industry I don't know how many years I worked with Scott and the team, but basically, we grew them to 3 different locations. All loan officers were making 6 figures, if not close to $1 million, that we and my marketing room generated leads for them on a nightly basis. So we grew and blueprinted some of the. They're lucky we didn't have MySpace back then either, because I would have documented all this on MySpace too, and better cameras. But we definitely did some remarkable things then that time, which then led us into becoming an entrepreneur in the mortgage space. Off of $5,000 to Tony, we created a company with and grew it to like 20 people. And then that was like a 2-year run. And then I got called in by the mortgage technology industry out of Gig Harbor. I, again, responded to an ad that was kind of off. It was like tech. They mentioned something about mortgages, and I was like, I'm going to apply anyways. Well, it happened to be, and this was the other life-changing part, because this kind of brings me to the tech telecom world and staffing. And just opening up my horizons. I'm coming from a dog-eat-dog world of commission-only, salespeople, boiler room almost, toxic culture, which again, just like when I was in gang-infested, I'm in it, I'm around it, but that don't mean I got to be part of it. And rejecting that negativity is very important. So, the same thing when I crossed over to the mortgage tech industry side, it was mind opening for me. But I knew how to read rate sheets. I can when somebody fax, and I said fax, somebody fax the rate sheet. Tony, in order for you to lock in the best rates for your client from the 3-4 different lenders that you work with, you would have to check loan to value, debt to income, credit score, and there's a matrix. Right. Well, I learned through learning how to do all this for years, how to read a mortgage rate sheet matrix. So, 620 credit score with a DTI over X amount with a LTV, this is your base rate. And I could write this. I could write it, and then they like, hey, can you code it? Can you write? And so they taught me some minor coding, but it was more like SQL database administration, but translating fax rate sheets, paper rate sheets, into a digital computer where thousands of loan officers can utilize. That was like the first introduction. I mean, I think MySpace was just popping up around that time. So just, how early stage of technology and information sharing was, I was part of that. And it was wild because it was a whole identity change for me while trying to be a rapper too. But anyways, so mortgage tech,
tell us more about mortgage tech,
I got into telecom. Huh?
Tell us more about being a rapper.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was, just to plug that in there, aside from hip hop changing my life, and DJing and all that, rapping during the time when there was very little amounts of Southeast Asian representation in hip hop, yet alone in rapping, and yet alone rapping and touring with artists such as Brian Leslie, Cassie, Sean Kingston, The Game, Youngberg, Hitmaker, just the list goes on of how many shows and multi-platinum artists. Far East Movement was, one of the Southeast Asian people to sign to a major label, Interscope. They signed to Jimmy Iovine, and I was actually there touring with them, and I actually have them on a music video. I'm one of the few people that can say that. Jin the MC, he's all the way out in New York. I wanted to bring him to Seattle and Portland to show the Northwest, hey, there's a Asian rapper. He's talking about us. He's talking about made in China and like throwing it back, the counterpunch. at his opponents, and he's winning BET championship. He signed to Rough Riders, DMX. Who doesn't like DMX? And so I'm like, we got to bring him out here. That's just, I don't know. There's no, I didn't have a plan, a strategy.
Well,
I was just like,
it was an idea.
Felt right. It's an idea.
Yeah.
And it was an idea. And I think T, like, one of the things that, you thought an idea of this person could be champion and executed on an idea. That's like magical. That's no different than a business plan going, I think, and I'm going to execute and then monitor what is the results of that, how it worked or didn't work. I think that's a lot of, why I was rapping, why I got into telecom, why I got to the mortgage, heck, why did I get into tech and staffing and recruiting? And then now, like all of that, and then championing for diversity, equity, inclusion. So, I got a 21-year-old. I think that's probably, my biggest successful accomplishment is raising a child, and being the father that I never had, being the parent that I never had, and raising a child, and being an entrepreneur raising a child.
Big shout out and a huge thank you to Zeacon for making this happen. They have an amazing platform. Check out their website, zeacon.com, zeacon.com. So, I mean, do you feel like your kids see that and they realize?
Ooh, the first one or the second one?
First one.
Yeah, I'm very proud of Jern. He's my firstborn, and a lot of it is just you want to just, I don't know, overcompensate for what you didn't get or what you wish you had, and if that's spoiling my child, then that's spoiling my child. Better than depriving my child. So, not that they're entitled or spoiled. He's actually, one of the things that, he's had jobs since high school too. And that wasn't because he needed the job, but he just understood that, hey, I could get a jump early start into this. It's, again, I'm not saying my son needs to go and do Muay Thai and be a Muay Thai champion tomorrow, but, I've been kicked in the leg by 16-year-olds, and I've seen how the youth Muay Thai kids are just as vicious with a baseball bat. So, again, if you don't limit your children, and I think that's what it was just exposing him to different things, figuring out what he's passionate about, what he cares about. Luckily, and you and I have served on community outreach events together for the community, and you've seen him with me when he was younger, and I think that was part of it, exposing him to that, which then educates him, which then gives him more empathy to care, about the real.
A lot of kids don't have that, right? They don't have somebody that takes them. A lot of kids don't have the opportunity to go to these events that you and I go to kind of see a bigger world, right?
That's real. That's real. The access and the opportunity to just get out there, and that's really actually the talk that I've been trying to give out more is like, employees 27, how to get out of your immediate natural network. And I kind of like what Gary Vee says, and people misconstrued of him saying, oh, you're telling me to go say F my parents. No, it's F anyone that is trying to tell you how to live your life that doesn't make you, that doesn't, oh, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Does the recording stop if I get a phone call or something? Oh, sorry. But yeah, like, what was I saying? What was I just talking
the
about?
talk you're giving, the talk you're giving these days with getting out of your...
how to get outside of your immediate natural network, because it could be your own, it could be your own people that your closest ones that you assume, and thank you, Tony, for being at my TEDx. You were there, and I remember that, and I'm very honored because I felt like a fighter who needed the good people around because there is something, there's an advantage of that home team because it does. But anyways, I remember going up there and saying, it could be your mama, your papa, your granddad, your coach, your uncle, your aunt, that could be showing you bad behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But we're so deep into our biases of my mom cannot do any wrong.
Right.
My dad cannot do any wrong. My uncle, who hates video games, told me don't play video games. You'll never get a job. Or, I mean, they're not talking about job. Why are you going to get video games? You're going to play Mortal Kombat, Grand Theft Auto, and you're going to turn into a serial killer. Yo, I get that.
Right.
But that's not the truth. You actually stunt that person's growth from possibly working at one of the leading gaming companies,
Mm-hmm.
and those folks are doing just fine. Okay?
Yeah,
so
we
again,
have one of
it's
the
like,
best, gaming universities in this area.
bingo. You know,
Right.
we're honored to be living in, you know, if you think about it statistically and based on demographics and like all the companies, and we literally have enough people here in the state of Washington to have access where you walk into any good, great coffee shop, you might run into somebody working at a company that is doing some incredible things that, you know, in conversation, but you never know what you can learn from that person. So,
Yeah, sort of like Hollywood, right? Walk into any cafe and you might
I mean,
stumble, you
I
might get an
I
acting
feel like
opportunity.
that's the
Who
only
knows?
reason why I didn't make it as a rapper. I wasn't in California enough.
Right.
I should have went to Cali. No,
So how did
but
you
no, I mean
pivot?
that's, you know, that's part of why SM Diversity started
Yeah, so
here.
yeah, tell us more about
It
SM
evolved.
Diversity.
Yeah, I mean, you know, during my time, I thought I was going to retire at telecom. I was the number one account consultant. I was working with companies like Allstate, McDonald's, State Farm as their account consultant. So anything they need in phone, hardware, equipment, internet, storage, you know, data, like they would call us and we would, you know, project manage that for them. And these are some of the top companies and clients they had. So I somehow earned the title of the number one account consultant
Wow.
for my region in the last years that I was there. I was probably there for like 5 years. I thought I was going to retire there for some reason because most people do.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a big merger with CenturyLink and Quest. And then that kind of caused all these, you know, waves of layoffs, which, by the way, if you're out there and you're listening to this and you were at Microsoft, but whatever company, or you know somebody, you understand the story that I'm going to say. It's a very vulnerable one where, you know, your whole life, your whole that I reached out to in the mortgage days. See, this is good, keeping good relations like you and I. Like, you know, that's what matters. And hey, they were like, yeah, I'm what are you doing now? I'm doing this thing called staffing recruiting. I was like, nah, pass. I don't want to staff no babysitters, front desk people, lawnmower people. I was like, that's not me. I seen Express and Labor Ready. And he's like, nah, my guy, I'm in Scooby Dooby shorts making $250,000 a year, 125 from Microsoft, 125 from Samsung. I said, where do I apply?
You're
and
like, what?
He's like, let me, you know, introductions. Let me get you into touch with somebody, agency, and then boom, you know, yeah. Guess what? Opportunity meets preparation. You know, I knew how to sell. I knew I knew what I'm capable of. And going into another arena, I'm not familiar with staffing recruiting, but I said, as long as I bring what I know and my way that I rap to the table, they're gonna sign me or not. And if they don't sign me, it's not right for me. But if they do, hey, we in. They you know, they gave us a title shot. Now we ready. You know, I know you know what I'm talking about when, like, you know, when you think of like the fighters that finally, you know, they worked up to their title shot. It's like, oh, we've been waiting for this. Belt's coming home, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh yeah, well, I've been waiting for this. Belt's coming home. You give me that chance, you know, open those doors a little bit, and then boom, I got in. Like, and they were like, wow. Same thing like Scott. They were like, wow, like, you know, we don't meet a lot of people in staffing recruiting like you. And, you know, if you can learn, we could teach. And, you know, hey, student mode, like, hey, teach me, you know, fill my cup up. And that's what they did. And I spent about a year there really grinding it out. Like, I felt like I took 10 steps back in my career to be out there, treated the way I was treated. But I was like, you know what? You give me enough time. I take enough bumps and bruises. I'm going to learn and get better. Like you said, you know, I'm going to keep getting better by blocking and by countering. And so that's what I did. To the point where I then went into another bigger consulting firm, spent 2 or 3 years there, you know, working with bringing diverse clientele while everyone was competing, working, you know, the same Zillows and Disneys and Microsoft. I had to go out there from a 10-person startup that nobody knew in Tacoma, but they had fresh funding of $2 million,
Mm-hmm.
and to walking into different industries that maybe people didn't care for, but I did.
Right.
And so, trying to identify that. So yes, they threw me all the way out there and didn't expect me to swim back, but I came back backstroking, my friend. And I was like, oh, I like what y'all are doing up here on the beach, so I want to stay up here on the beach too.
Right.
So I then went to go open up my own recruiting firm,
Uh-huh.
but I read a book called Blue Ocean Strategy. I was like, I
Mm.
can't compete with these folks. I mean, and I'll just keep it real. Most of these owners are white owners, white ran companies. And so, as a person that kept on going into these firms or going into these offices, I mean, I didn't even realize how, looking back now, how much of a unique opportunity that was to be able to walk into billion, trillion dollar company
Right.
offices, meeting with executives, private meetings, being invited by some of the people that, just wow, I just never thought I'd sit in front of them or have that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But to do that, made me think like, wow, I can't be the only person that's in this room all the time. And so, reading Blue Ocean Strategy, thinking about what's near and dear to me. At the time, I was already advocating for STEM advocacy,
Mm-hmm.
science, technology, engineering, math. I was going around telling people like, out of 100 high school graduates, only 9 will graduate in science, technology, engineering, math. We have some of the highest job grades, and so if you don't get the jobs, you don't get the money, you don't get the housing, we don't represent.
Right.
So how do I get more people to, bridge that, go over that bridge? And that was already something I was already doing. And then I realized, whoa, this has even a deeper impact than people that didn't have access opportunity because they're poor or grew up in not under supported, underserved environments like myself. Maybe they were discriminated against.
Right.
Why are women dropping off at higher rates in STEM? So that literally made me transition and just tattoo it on me of like, this is what I really truly believe in, and there's no denying it. I believe in a more diverse, equitable, inclusive world and society and community, that culture is being embraced. That's why I love Bruce Lee. He was unapologetic for being who he was.
Right.
Tupac, Nipsey Hussle, like some of the greats. And that's what I was. I was unapologetic, meaning they gave me a objection, and I countered it with my rebuttal of being uniquely authentic and responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Responsible is another thing. Do you have the trust, the relationships, and the responsibility once you grow and gain this trust from various community partners? And that's what I did. I was like, I'm a networker. I know some people. I'm gonna bring them to the table. I'm gonna help them get jobs. I don't want to keep selling them stuff, even though when I was selling them stuff, it was good stuff.
Right.
Good stuff that for your telemarketing. I mean, for your telecom.
Yeah, people
good
need
stuff
a
for your
house.
home and refinancing.
Yeah.
Good stuff for your job. Who doesn't like a person going, hey, I got you a raise with another company. Hey, that job, it's like I feel like a real estate agent that goes, hey, congratulations, you got the house, here's your keys. And I love delivering that gospel and good news to people in because you never know why they left the job, right? Most of the time they're not gonna. I have this saying, Tony and Mr. Customer, when Tony wants to come work for you, he'll tell you all the reasons why you should hire him and why he should work here. What Tony doesn't tell you, that he tells me, like a confessional booth, is all the reasons why he's leaving your company and why he needs us to help him find a better one. And so I say,
you have both sides of the story.
That's huge. And so I'm like, I'm honored when people trust us with their careers. I'm even more honored when employers and some of the companies that we work with, from Washington State to the city of Seattle to even Microsoft, to Google, working with them in different various aspects over the years. It's been about dang near 10 years, T. Like I'm coming up on a decade, and
wow.
it's been wow. It's been wild. It's just been wild. That's all I get to say is like, there's a story to tell. Wow. There's a story of, Nipsey Hussle said it best. He goes, we've been through every emotion just to get here right now. So I feel like I've been through every emotion that you could think of to get here right now. So that's where we're at, and some of the accolades and achievements was like, being on the cover of Seattle Times with my son, my oldest one.
Yeah, I remember
being mentioned by Seattle Magazine as a top 10, influencer in diversity, equity, inclusion. Being mentioned in Forbes as a top 10 in 2019
Mm-hmm.
as somebody you should get to know. Invited to TEDx. I'm going to be speaking at UW Medicine at the end of the month. I'm
Oh,
speaking
wow.
in front of 200 Southeast Asian youth in Portland in like 2 weeks. And this is the third time I spoke to them, but first time in person. And the first two times is because they liked me so much that those kids actually asked for me back. And I think it was because I just said it. I was like, y'all like hip hop? Well, if you like hip hop, you got to learn science, technology, engineering, math. Otherwise, you'll just be a consumer.
Yeah.
How do you become a creator and contributor to hip hop, right? We all can watch UFC, but not everyone's like Tony and Mighty, though. You got to get into the gym. And I'm just happy to be in the arena. That's really what it is encouraging more people to pursue whatever that is. You could be a hairdresser, lawyer, and then all of a sudden a computer scientist. I've seen that before.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because can you imagine what Bruce Lee and all the people that doubted him from becoming a Western boxing cha-cha champion, philosopher, choreographer, and just super,
Actor,
BMF. Yeah. He get the BMF belt.
Yeah, you got the BMF belt.
But yeah, man, that's kind of been where we're at now. And, along the way, we meet people like you, Tony, and you've seen all the people that have come in and out, and the good and bad. And, I never want to trick anyone, though.
Mm-hmm.
I never want people to think like, oh, it's all, peaches and roses over there.
You've always been
whatever.
real. You've always been real.
Huh?
So you've always been real as long as
I
I've known you. So,
yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And your message is
I know we have like 10 minutes left.
I know. We got the Cliff Notes version of your story.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah. And you know what? I'll tell you what. This is probably my most exciting,
mm-hmm.
because this is not just a random podcast of me sharing my story with another person, but people that have been through it, that has enough empathy, that understand it, but also that healing, that recovery, that how did Pacquiao pick himself up off the floor and then keep continuously doing what he's doing, right? I mean, that's an awesome story. Yeah, you could be the Mayweather story, and that's an awesome story in general, just from as a professional. But the holistic story, the legacy
mm-hmm.
that you want to live and leave behind, and what you want to be known for holistically, like, okay, you could win in money, but what other parts of your life are you winning at, to yourself and or however you want to
mm-hmm.
be projected? Hey, some people like being portrayed as the bad person, even though they're not a bad person.
Right.
They just like being portrayed that way, and they're like, it don't matter.
You get the attention that way.
Yeah. I grew up on WWE, WWF, and I'm like, dang, Hulk Hogan was good. I mean, now he's bad.
Right.
Now he's gonna be good again, I think. And it's just that whole, in life, right? Like, we hate, we love, we hate, we love, we hate, we love. And then it's just like, it's just hate and love. I mean, people wake up on Mondays going,
mm-hmm.
I hate my job.
Right.
And then on Fridays, they're like, yeah, thank God it's Friday. And it's like, oh, you get the day off? Oh, okay. You like the salary? You like the benefits? Okay. So I don't know. It's been wild. I wish it was I wish on the next podcast I get to ask you a bunch of questions too.
Oh yeah, hey, no, next time you come in the studio.
Yeah, exactly.
But
exactly.
But hey, thanks for coming on the show. If you could give 3 things that you'd share with somebody aspiring with aspiring goals that they could learn from you, what would they be?
Whew.
3 things.
3 things. First is to understand the cost of being different. There's a cost and there's a consequence. So before you do what you want, do what you need. I'm not against people protecting, covering, even code switching, because you need to pay your bills. You need to get your kids, your car or whatever.
Right.
You got to get that job. But passionately you want to do something else. But do what you need to, and then work into what you want to do. Right. There's fighters that have jobs, but yet they're trying to fund their fighting career, or a startup company. Right. I've seen startup Uber drivers who then go on and create $1 million companies. So do what you want. um, you know, but also do what you need. That's my first tip. Two is, be when you get a chance to be authentically you and evolve and express your identities and embrace yourself and be unapologetic for it. Representation matters.
Mm-hmm.
So go represent, you know go represent for your town, your peoples, your community, your gym, your history, whatever it is that you're playing for. Go do that. Like, nobody should stop you if it brings you fulfillment and joy. And then the last one would be, I don't know, maybe this is probably because it's recent. Slap the money off the table.
Yeah.
Slap the money off the table. Now, I ain't saying money isn't everything, the whole,
Right.
like, again, do what you want, but make sure, but when you get a chance to slap the money off the table, you do that. Because here's why. It then lets you and the other person across, like, really redeal the conversation now.
Mm-hmm.
When there's no motive of that money in the middle between us and we just slap it off, that's not why we're here. Why we're really here, we're here about building something, passionate about something, working at a job. I'm here for that. Whatever that motive is, that's going to be a whole nother conversation. Right. Bruce Lee didn't do it for money. Tony and Mighty didn't say there was going to be a 10 million, 100, whatever. That's it. And that's a focus. That's not the focus, right?
Right.
So I think that, when you do that, it brings a different person. You operate different, and it comes from a different place, and the outcomes are going to be more mutually beneficial, and you will actually find more money pouring down onto the table historically when people do that. So, yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I can't wait to show this to the world. Like, honestly, like, I feel like this might be my first new rebranding YouTube video. I'm like, here's my interview with Tony Sablan. Like, I really, really appreciate you doing this, T. Like, you always have taken the time to, my love language is sharing knowledge, and
right.
You do a great job of doing that, man. And
no, thank you, man.
I want to give you your flowers too, champ. So, appreciate you.
Appreciate you too. Well, hey, thanks for being on the show. Go kick ass out there, and one of these days you gotta step in the ring with me. You've been taking Muay Thai. I see you.
Yeah. I can't wait to learn from you. Always a student. Sifu, always.
All right. Well, hey, man, have a great day. And
hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Let me know once this is all done. And let's definitely get some more time, dinner, whatever on me. And let's just talk more. And, I would love to, again, the book ain't going to come out without, an insert from you or some type of interview from you. So.
Oh yeah, I'd love to. So let me know when.
We got more to come, T, and I'm excited to be reconnected and reunited, and that hopefully that COVID thing is over, so we can keep finding ways to connect online and offline. But this is amazing what you're doing. So, thank you.
Thank you.